According to a recently published satellite image, a Chinese warship and many armed fishing boats pursued a U.S. Navy destroyer last week as it exercised its right of passage in the South China Sea. The USS Dewey was conducting a Freedom of Navigation Operation, or FONOP, on November 3 in the disputed Spratly Islands when the Vietnam-based marine security researcher Duan Dang published this aerial photo with X, the previous Twitter platform, on Tuesday. The photo showed the USS Dewey passing Taiwan-held ITU-ABA. 3 Chinese maritime militia ships and at least 1 Chinese Navy ship followed closely behind. Despite the resources the U.S. has committed to the Russia-Ukraine war in Europe and the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict in the Middle East, the Biden administration claims that the Indo-Pacific region, which includes the South China Sea, remains a priority theater. The satellite capture was only a snapshot of the long-running tension between Chinese and American forces operating in this region. Chinese-language newspaper United Daily News reported on Monday that U.S. and Chinese ships were heard exchanging radio messages during the FONOP, which Beijing didn't formally protest, presumably because it didn't have de facto control over ITU-ABA. This led to reports in Taiwan regarding the Navy's most recent run-in with China's maritime forces. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory, despite Taipei's repeated denials, but the sight of Chinese ships close to the island nonetheless implied an attempt by China to establish sovereignty over it, and by implication, democratically controlled Taiwan. A request for comment via email regarding the nature of any interactions between the Dewey and People's Liberation Army or Chinese maritime militia vessels which the Taiwanese newspaper claimed were visible from ITU-ABA was not answered by the U.S. 7th Fleet, Japan-based, which announced the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers FONOP last Friday. While the Dewey operation took place around a disputed feature in the Spratly Islands, the Navy chose not to identify it, but it still created a stir in Taipei by challenging restrictions on innocent passage, which by international maritime law meant that the U.S. warship had passed through territorial waters within 12 nautical miles of ITU-ABA. The People's Republic of China, Vietnam and Taiwan each require either permission or advance notification before a military vessel or warship engages in innocent passage through their territorial sea, in violation of international law, the 7th Fleet stated. The idea of freedom of navigation is upheld by the United States for all nations. The United States will continue to protect the freedoms and rights of the sea that are guaranteed to everyone, as long as some nations persist in claiming and imposing limitations on rights that beyond their jurisdiction under international law. The statement continued. During a Monday quiz in Taiwan's parliament, Tsai Ming-yen, the head of intelligence for Taipei, revealed to opposition legislators on the Foreign and National Defense Committee of the island that all foreign ship movements had been seen by troops on ITU-ABA. Whether the Chinese or American ships had invaded the island's territorial sea, he continually refused to say. ITU-ABA, also known as Taiping Island by Taipei, is the largest naturally occurring island in the Spratly Islands, which are also claimed by China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. The Spratly Islands are located around 1,000 miles southwest of Taiwan. Even closer, at around 280 miles southwest of Taiwan, Prada's Island, also known as Dong Sha, is governed by the Taiwanese government. Although Taipei and Washington's collective defense preparations are still primarily focused on the Communist Party's plans for Taiwan proper, Chinese warplanes have conducted over 4,600 sorties close to the island since September 2020. The possible capture of Taiwan's outlying islands has long been suggested as one way Beijing could force Taipei to cede political control.